It's an interesting take on things, and you can go any direction with this. So there's a story on the 4-Star Telegram today, a piece today, and I don't know. I thought it was fairly objective. You can do with it whatever you want. So it asks and makes several points. Here you go. First part of this is easy. Is Dak Prescott the most scrutinized player in the NFL? There. Do something with that. Now, the noise about Dak Prescott, it does make it seem like it. You can feel it, the amount of noise. Is he the most scrutinized player in the NFL? You might even take it further and say the most scrutinized player in sports. The story says we need to talk about the double standard in the media coverage for Dak Prescott. Okay, there's a lot to it. One, it's the Cowboys, so it's going to be either really good or really bad. It's going to be really sucking up or ripping them to shreds. There's not much objectivity. But the double standard in the media coverage, I would say we got to take it further than that and say your reactions to Dak Prescott. Maybe. Wait, no. Not really. Now, the fact that you're the quarterback of the Dallas Cowboys, I think is undeniable that you go to a different level. No doubt. The most valuable franchise, the most talked about franchise. I mean, you play quarterback for the Dallas Cowboys, you're the biggest deal. Yes. Yeah, that part I think is true. I think you have to accept that. I think it's what people enjoy about loving Dallas or hating Dallas, and they're really good right now, with or without Dak Prescott. So the Cowboys part of this, I think, is reasonable. I don't know about the double standard with Dak Prescott. I'm not quite sure I buy that yet, but you can try it. I mean, you can do whatever you want. We need to talk about the double standard in the media coverage of Dak Prescott. I'm throwing it back to you and saying your reaction to Dak Prescott. The quarterback of the Dallas Cowboys is the most scrutinized player in the NFL. And by default, that means it's Dak Prescott. Good point here, though. This is pretty interesting, and don't tell me you haven't thought of this before. You will notice that Don Meredith, Roger Staubach, Tony Romo, and Troy Aikman all went to the broadcast booth. Hard to say if they would have made that jump had they not been the quarterback of the Dallas Cowboys. You buy that part too? Because I could easily come back and say, wait a second. Greg Olsen is probably the best analyst, in my opinion. Greg Olsen is the best analyst in football right now. He came from Carolina. Tom Brady, soon-to-be broadcaster Tom Brady, although I believe it when I see it. He's headed to the broadcast booth. Matt Ryan is headed to the broadcast booth. Dan Fouts was in the broadcast booth. I mean, there are more players not Dallas Cowboys in the broadcast booth than those that are from the Cowboys. And by the way, I don't ever remember Roger Staubach being a broadcaster. I don't. I know it's a long time ago for some of us, but I don't remember that at all. And if he was, he got out of it pretty quickly. And Don Meredith, I mean, look, the Cowboys were not a big deal with Don Meredith. You got to be kidding me. They were awful. In fact, they were a brand new franchise. Don Meredith made the jump, and I think he made color analysts a completely different and new gig. I mean, I think it goes this way. It goes Don Meredith, then it goes John Madden, and then it goes Tony Romo, sort of in order of the most popular, dynamic, different, quirky analysts of all time. But Don Meredith opened the door, and I'm not sure he opened the door just because he was a Dallas Cowboys quarterback. Now, he was an actor and stuff like that. But for those who don't remember, that's when television broadcasting was at its best, when everyone was drunk, they were edgy, maybe in a high too, I don't know. He was in that original Monday Night Football crew with Howard Cosell and Frank Gifford. So is that just because he was a Dallas Cowboys quarterback? I mean, is Romo a megastar just because he was a Dallas Cowboys quarterback? Troy Aikman, same thing? I mean, or is it just the fact that they're star players? How much of that stuff is about being a Dallas Cowboys quarterback? Because that's the assumption here. I'm not going to say none of it because it does matter. But I don't know about all of it. I don't know that at all. I have no idea if Dak Prescott could be an analyst or want to be an analyst. He seems like a pretty quiet, serious dude to me. So don't see a lot of former Jaguars, Lions, and Texans QBs in the booth calling the NFL's biggest games. Well, that's not entirely true because the studio analyst for the NFL Network was the first player picked by the Houston Texans. This offseason, Dak content provided nearly every talk show, all of the noise, all over the country with endless programming. Dak Talk is a godsend to sports talk hosts and producers. True. Minutes before the Cowboys season began on Sunday night against the Giants in New Jersey, there was NBC sideline reporter Melissa Stark talking to Dak on camera. Her lead-in to a question was, quote, "Dak, you led the league in interceptions last year." He did. I mean, he did. Her point is like asking your spouse, I'm reading this now, "You were fat and stupid all of last year. What makes you think today is going to be any different?" Okay. It's not like that at all. That's not true. It's funny, but I don't know that I think that's fair. You can take this and decide if you think this is fair. You can take this and decide if you think it's objective. I mean, again, this is a matter of opinion here. Okay? But I don't. Asking Dak Prescott, stating to Dak Prescott about his interceptions, fair or unfair, touchable or untouchable, I think it's pretty reasonable. Let's point out, whatever team he played for, he led the league in interceptions. That's kind of a big deal. When you're a playoff team and you lead the league in interceptions, it's a big deal. It's something people talk about it. When you lead the league in interceptions and you've missed 4 games, it becomes an even bigger deal. When your team loses, granted, I thought they played pretty well when they got beat by San Francisco a year ago, but when your team loses and in the process you throw a couple of picks and you were leading the league in interceptions and you missed 4 games and still led the league in interceptions, it's kind of a story. What else are you going to have to ask Dak Prescott about? There you go, all of you. What else would you talk to him about? If you had 25 seconds before a game, which is going to be pointless and mindless anyway, usually, I don't know what you expect him to say. I mean, what exactly would you ask him? What conversation do you think you can start? About what? You want to talk to him about his great defense? What do you say, Dak? You're really irrelevant now because your defense is so good, you don't matter? You can't screw stuff up? That's the truth. So, I mean, what is anyone's supposed to talk to him about? If you had a chance to interview Josh Allen of the Buffalo Bills right now, what would you talk to him about? His hair? Why his eyes looked all cracked out the other night? What would you talk to him? His dating life? I don't know. You might bring up the fact that he had 4 turnovers on Monday night. There. Come on. Where is the Dak level outrage of Joe Burrow? Less than 48 hours after signing the largest contract in NFL history, the Pro Bowl Bengal played like he couldn't spell quarterback, much less play quarterback in a 24-3 loss to the Cleveland Browns. Burrow completed 14 of 31 passes for 82 yards and was sacked 5 times. True. Very true. Shockingly bad. Was really bad. If the name wasn't Joe Burrow, you would think, wow, who's that scrub? I do need to point out, though, just to be fair, it was awful, and I got to believe that any one of you that knows anything about football, and if you were a chance to interview Joe Burrow, one of the things you might talk about is, why did you start the exact same way a year ago, and then you ended up almost in a Super Bowl? You were an eyelash away from a Super Bowl. Let's be clear about that. Joe Burrow was 0-2. The Bengals were 0-2 a year ago, and they were a stupid penalty away from playing in the Super Bowl. Dak Prescott was not a stupid play away from playing in the Super Bowl. But yes, you would bring up that Joe Burrow passed for 82 yards. Yes, you should ask him why it is you got off to a bad start, and why did you get off to a bad start a year ago? So, where was the Dak level outrage at the human turnover? The Buffalo Bills quarterback Josh Allen. Agreed. He is a human turnover machine. He was a train wreck Monday night. Since week 1 of the 2022 season, Allen has thrown 20 interceptions and fumbled 17 times in 19 games. Yeah. Since 2018, he has 82 turnovers. Yeah, I think that's what you would talk about. And yet neither Allen nor Burrow, this is what you have to ask yourself if you think this is true, neither Allen nor Burrow receives a fraction of the heat that Dak Prescott feels. Do you agree with that? Noise level, yes. Look, if the results of those two players were better than Dak Prescott's. But I don't know. What do you want to do with that comment? Neither Allen nor Burrow receives a fraction of the heat that Dak Prescott feels. Is it because of the color of Dak's skin? For some, this will always be a yes. Okay, I can buy some of that too. Sure. It's more because Dak Prescott is the quarterback of the Dallas Cowboys. Joe Burrow is the quarterback of the Cincinnati Bengals, and Josh Allen is the quarterback of the Buffalo Bills. There is a double standard. Oh, man. Okay. Dak Prescott deserves to be criticized far more than Joe Burrow. Go ahead and disagree with that all you would like. That would be dumb. Joe Burrow almost won a Super Bowl 2 years ago and should have been in it a year ago. You can't say that about Dak Prescott, and that's part of the problem people have. But the part about because he plays for the Cowboys, everything is magnified is absolutely true. It is. No argument there. I think you could argue, and I don't know that I disagree, that the same thing applied to Tony Romo. Tony Romo would put up pretty good numbers, and people would still be flipping out. True. I buy the Cowboys part of this, but if you take by itself Dak Prescott's numbers and his record, the criticism of his isn't that far off. It really isn't. The criticism of Josh Allen is absolutely deserved. I don't know. Maybe there is more of it than we hear, but he should be criticized. He's a mess. Joe Burrow's not a mess. No. He may be a mess 1 or 2 games. He's not a mess when it counts the most. Unfair comparison, not true. Is the issue only about being a quarterback for the Dallas Cowboys? Does it by itself make you a lightning rod? And more importantly, does it make it an unfair lightning rod? I think the noise is too much. I think people get too caught up on quarterbacks anyway. I do. I've said this for a long time. I disagree with you. It's not all that matters. Look, you watched the game the other night. A team won with with a terrible quarterback, the Jets side, Zach Wilson. They won because of defense. Dallas will win because of defense. You're not going to say they win because of their quarterback. They're not going to win because of their quarterback. They're going to win because of defense. It's just the nature of how people watch football now because of fantasy and everything else it starts and ends with quarterbacks all the time. That's all people talk about. That's the only focus most people have. So I think it's pretty fair and reasonable that Dak Prescott gets a lot of that. Most importantly, he plays for the Cowboys. That's your lightning rod.